As we know, often standing between the dyslexic individual and the demonstration of her intelligence and deep knowledge is her slow reading. Once a dyslexic reader is allowed extra time to complete a test, she is able to demonstrate her high ability. Without such an accommodation, the test merely becomes a reflection of her disability. Scores on such unaccommodated tests often do great harm to dyslexic students, preventing access to higher education and desired careers. Perhaps of most concern, those students are left with the incorrect perception that they're not intelligent. It is sometimes a challenge to get decision makers, for example, when a student is applying for accommodations for a standardized test, to understand and to appreciate the importance of time to a person who is dyslexic. Here, I want to share with you what a distinguished judge, now on the U.S. Supreme Court, thought about this issue. The judge, Judge Sonia Sotomayor, understood the critical importance of extra time for a dyslexic reader. Hearing the case of Marilyn Bartlett, a dyslexic lawyer, seeking accommodations on the bar examination, Judge, now Supreme Court Justice Sotomayor, found for the dyslexic lawyer, wisely opining, just as a person in a wheelchair can use an above-ground entrance to gain access to a building if a ramp is available, a dyslexic can draw meaning from complex text if permitted the time required to slowly decipher each word manually. To a dyslexic, time is his ramp. New York Times reporter Jim Dwyer described the interchange between the judge and the plaintiff. The woman sitting in the witness box was presented with a printed page and asked to read it aloud. She used two hands and her lips. One index finger tracked the words left to right across the page. The other moved down the lines from top to bottom. She mouthed the words to herself before speaking them. She read the word indicted as indicated. The judge, Sonia Sotomayor, glanced at the clock. It was 11:13. At the end, she had a question for the witness, Marilyn Bartlett. "What did you just read?" "I haven't got a clue," Bartlett replied. "Neither have I," the judge replied. Although the passage was just 426 words, it had taken Bartlett, who had earned a doctorate in education and a law degree, and had her verbal IQ measured as superior, 11 minutes to read it. The sentence is so excruciatingly drawn out that no one could remember their meaning. After listening to the testimony of the defendant's experts and listening to Bartlett read haltingly and laboriously, the judge found for the plaintiff, determining that, quote, by its very nature, diagnosing a learning disability requires clinical judgment, end quote, and, quote, is not quantifiable merely by test scores, end quote. The importance of this case and Judge Sotomayor's thinking and judgment in this case are critical to understanding at a deep level the implications of the final rule here. Consideration of the condition, manner, or duration of how a person carries out the life activity of reading or speaking or learning is consistent with Judge Sotomayor's determination that the diagnosis of dyslexia is not and should not be restricted to a consideration of a score on a test. This landmark case highlighted the dangers of relying on automatic numerical cutoff scores for determining if a person is disabled or not. The Bartlett case is extremely important for bright students who are able to self-accommodate and score average or better on a test of reading, but who at the same time are not able to read in the same condition, manner, or duration as most people in the population. This case is important too because it highlights that the diagnosis of dyslexia is a clinical one and is not and should not be made by test scores alone.